you take corn syrup out of it, I mean, you know, our doctor friends here can tell you about all the problems with high fructose corn syrup these days, but it means there's still a tremendous amount of it being produced, and the protein component that is left over from taking corn syrup out of corn, that is corn gluten meal. Very high protein, 9% nitrogen, great fertilizer, but it also turns out that it has a very good pre-emergent effect. A guy at the University of Iowa discovered this, and the way that corn gluten meal works, it allows the weed seed to sprout, but then it stops it from forming a root system. And if a little plant sprouts and doesn't have any roots, what happens? It dehydrates and dies, right? So what we want to do is we want to put down the corn gluten meal. We don't want to put it down too early before the seeds sprout, or it'll all be eaten up and gone away by the time the seed sprouts. And we can't put it down after the seed sprouts because it's not going to have any effect once it has a root system down there. So the idea behind corn gluten meal is put it down before the seed sprouts. Water it in thoroughly. Don't ever keep watering corn gluten meal. It will stink. I mean, it will be one of the worst odors you have ever encountered in your life. But put it down and water it thoroughly, and then for the next month or so, you can still water, but keep your watering to a minimum. Because remember, what's happening is those little weed seeds are sprouting, and the corn gluten meal is keeping them from forming any roots. And the hotter and drier it is, the faster they're going to dehydrate and die. Does corn gluten meal work against Johnson grass? Yes and no. It'll stop the seeds from Johnson grass, but it's not going to stop the stuff that's coming back from the roots. You say, well, I've got Bermuda grass in my flower beds. Is it going to work? No, it's not going to work because those are not seeds. Those are rhizomes and runners that are sprouting back out. But if you're concerned about sticker burrs sprouting, if you're concerned about dandelion sprouting, if you're concerned about that green winter grass that sprouts in October with their first cold front, corn gluten meal, we call that Mother Nature's weed and feed. It's your organic weed and feed because it's a good fertilizer, but at the same time, if applied properly, it stops those seeds from developing into wheat. Big problem. Corn gluten meal is very high in protein, and before we found out what it would do against weeds, it was a great component of most animal feeds. Used in a lot of dog foods, used in a lot of cattle feeds. And now the Chinese have discovered that they can put it into all kinds of food products, and they're paying twice the price that you and I are willing to pay. Corn gluten meal has gone literally from $20 a bag to $40 a bag in the space of 18 months or so. So if you do in a very small area, it's fine. But I will not be the one, I don't want to sell you enough to do a big area because I think it's a waste of money. And I guess the most common weed that people hate most is the grass burr, the sticker burr. We refer to it as a real pain in the grass. I had a field that I used to grow Sudan, baled for my cattle, and I mean in the fall you couldn't walk in there because the sticker burrs were so bad. What did I do to get rid of them? I stopped growing Sudan in there. I stopped bringing the weed seeds up to the surface. Let my native grass go back to take it over. After about 3 years, barely do I ever see a sticker burr in there. The native grasses have choked it out. So I'm still going to tell you, healthy turf is the best way to get rid of sticker burrs. If you're running animals, you're probably overgrazing the area if you've got sticker burr problems. You got a small area, right? Somebody calls me and says, I've got 2 acres of yard and I've got a horrible sticker burr problem. I want to use corn gluten meal. I'll tell them, use it right outside the back door. Use it at the place that you really want to stop those things, but you simply can't afford it on big areas, unless you just won the lottery, in which case you'll bulldoze it all up and put new sod down anyway. But that's how corn gluten meal works. Any questions about that?
You said corn gluten meal for brown patch?
No, that's cornmeal. That's the next thing we talk about. Corn gluten meal is pre-emergent herbicide.
I have some leftover from last year, and it has, I guess, a fungus that's in there. Is that still,
oh, it's fine. Yeah. Cornmeal or corn gluten meal?
Corn gluten meal.
Go ahead and put it out. It's fine. Yes?
The sticker burrs are growing where my bluebonnets come up at. Will the corn gluten meal affect the bluebonnet seeds?
You know, that's a real good question. Stop and think about it. When are the sticker burrs sprouting? March and April. When are bluebonnet seeds sprouting? October, November. By the time the bluebonnets are trying to sprout, corn gluten meal is going to be totally gone. Everybody says, how long does corn gluten meal last when you put it out? And you can't answer that, because corn gluten meal is broken down by that microbial life that we're trying to encourage out there. If your soil is really, really poor, corn gluten meal might remain effective for 6 months. If you've got really good soil out there, it's going to be totally eaten up in 6 weeks or less. But if you've got really good soil out there, you probably don't have any weed problems to begin with. Okay, I want to talk about fungus and then a couple other things real quickly, and then we'll just talk about anything you want to talk about. There are many damaging fungi out there. There are many beneficial fungi out there, and in many cases, we can make the good guys work against the bad guys, so to speak. One of the greatest fungus controllers we have is whole ground cornmeal. There's nothing in cornmeal that takes care of bad fungus. But whole ground cornmeal grows a beneficial fungus called trichoderma, which in turn eats up the bad fungus. I don't care whether you're trying to control athlete's foot, toenail fungus, or brown patch in your yard. If you've got a problem, you put out whole ground cornmeal, you'll grow trichoderma on it, and trichoderma will pretty much eliminate the other fungus problems. Some of the chemical companies have jumped on the bandwagon. It's so funny. I was at one of our big wholesale growers out in Cibolo, and the guy was all excited. He said, "Man, I found an organic fungus control. I'm buying it in this bag. It's $150 for a 1 pound bag." He said, "But this stuff really works." And I said, "Okay, Mark, let's see what it is." So he goes and gets the bag out. Trichoderma, blah, 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 blah. It's the same stuff that grows on cornmeal. You're paying $150 a bag for this refined stuff. You start buying cornmeal and getting the same results used properly. So that's one way to control damaging fungus, is with a beneficial fungus that actually destroys the damaging fungus. The other way that we can go about controlling fungus problems is simply growing so many good fungi that it totally outcompetes the bad guys. I mean, there's only a limited food source, if you want to call it that, for fungus. There's only a limited amount of space for fungus to grow. If we take a plant leaf surface, which might get powdery mildew or something like that on it, and we're growing so much beneficial fungus. Now, you can't see this, but if you looked at it on the microscope and knew what you were looking for, if you found that that surface was so coated with beneficial fungus that there wasn't anywhere for the bad guy to get started, then you would have effectively prevented it. We do that with things that stimulate these beneficial fungi. Garlic, great stimulator of beneficial fungi. Garlic sprays will control a lot of different problems in your grass, on your foliage, things like that. Compost tea will provide a lot of beneficial fungi, and it's amazing. Again, I'll go back to Dr. Ingham, because she is, well, she's brilliant to begin with, but has the research credentials to back up what she talks about, and has this worldwide business of making and spraying compost tea, among other things. And at the seminar, Roberta and I paid about $400 a piece to go to one of her seminars up in Austin one time, and she was talking about this guy who had come back from Vietnam with some sort of flesh-eating fungus or bacteria, something or other. The doctors couldn't do anything about it, and said every year when the weather got hot, this guy's skin literally started peeling off of him, and said he had to wear long sleeves and everything else just because people couldn't stand to look at him. He looked like a leper. And again, traditional medicine hadn't been able to do anything for him, just keep him alive and try to minimize the problem. One of the jobs that he had was going out and spraying compost tea. I think this was a job in Colorado, and they were trying to stop the damaging fungus on the leaves of a bunch of trees around City Hall. And it was this guy's job to go out every week for like 10 weeks and spray the compost tea all over these trees. And of course, in the process, he was giving himself a pretty good dose of compost tea. After about a month, his skin problem went away and has never come back. So who knows exactly what it is, but outcompeting bad fungus